Chanting Buddhist monks, Brahmin priests, two cultures which together create what we Westerners refer to as the mystic East. Two cultures joined in the person of a king whom his people call the soul of their nation. His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej performs the naming ceremony for his first grandchild 1 month after the baby's birthday. This is the first baby to be born in the Thai royal family for over 21 years. Her Majesty Queen Sirikit. In this ceremony, both Buddhist and Brahmin ritual are intertwined. His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej. All Thai names have meanings. The king's name means strength of the land, incomparable power. King Bhumibol, 9th sovereign of the Chakri dynasty, founded in 1782. He is 52 years old and has reigned in Thailand, Siam for 33 years. Her Majesty Queen Sirikit, her name means the glory of her family. Queen Sirikit is 47 years old. She has been Queen of Thailand for 29 years. Their oldest son, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Vajiralongkorn, was born in 1952. His name means decorated with lightning. His wife, Her Royal Highness Princess Suamswali, was born in London in 1957. Her Royal Highness Princess Sirindhorn was born in 1955. Sirindhorn means glorious. Her Royal Highness Princess Chulabhorn was born in 1957. Her name comes from that of her great-grandfather, King Chulalongkorn. The propitious moment arrives, decided upon by the court astrologers in accordance with ancient Brahmin practice. It is signaled by the sonorous sound of a conch shell. The first rite performed by the king in this naming ceremony of the latest member of the Chakri dynasty is the symbolic cutting of a lock of hair. This is seen as a means of blessing, getting rid of the old hair at birth, ready for the new growth. In the old days, the head was shaved. The pouring of a few drops of lustral water on the baby's head is not, of course, of baptism, but it is a token of purification. The water was blessed by Buddhist monks in an earlier ceremony. The leaf the king is placing on the child's breast is taken from a very old tree, usually teak. It symbolizes longevity and carries wishes for a long, happy and fruitful life. More lustral water gently poured on the baby's head. She will be called Her Royal Highness Princess Pachira Kitiyapa, which means bright as a diamond. The tying of threads round the wrist will, it is believed, contain the guardian spirit. It symbolizes friendship and love and is a protective gesture to ward off evil. But the question is, will this royal child enjoy long life? Will the evil be warded off? Can this monarchy, the soul of this nation, survive? This is one of the last places where we can still see kingship in action. One of the last places where we can still see something of what the Victorian travellers meant by the mystic East. The present Prime Minister, General Kriyansak Chomenon, waves on the good spirits to the royal grandchild on behalf of the Thai nation. What is this nation? What are its good spirits? Neither may be here much longer. Thailand has a constitutional monarchy on the lines with the British monarchy. Trooping the colour takes place in December on the sovereign's birthday. The ceremony is an almost exact replica of the British one. The same colours, the same drawn swords, the same brass band and bugles. Yet 6,000 miles away in the tropics, Thailand is a country that was never conquered by the British. But when this ceremony was introduced into Thailand by King Wachirawut, who was educated at Sandhurst and Oxford, served in the Durham Light Infantry, and became an honorary general in the British Army, the British king was also a Far Eastern king. In fact, he was the King Emperor of India. That all came to an end in 1947, and over the next 30 years, the other kings of Southeast Asia have gone. First, the Emperor Bao Dai gave way to the Republic of Vietnam soon after the Second World War. In 1970, Prince Sihanouk of Cambodia was deposed. In 1975, King Sawung Watana of Laos abdicated, and the King of Thailand is the only monarch left in Southeast Asia. In the 60s and early 70s, the West welcomed the abolition of monarchy as part of the People's March of Freedom. Now the monarchies are gone, but is what has come in their place any better? Listen to the proper name of the city we call Bangkok.
กรุงเทพมหานครปวรรัตนโกสินทร์มหินทรอยุธยามหาดิลกภพนพรัตนราชธานีบุรีรมย์อุดมราชนิเวศมหาสถานอมรพิมานอวตารสถิตสักกทัตติยวิษณุกรรมประสิทธิ์
It is the longest place name in the world, which translates into English, Great City of Angels, Supreme Repository for the Divine Jewels, Great Land Unconquerable, Grand and Prominent Realm, Royal and Delightful Capital City, full of the 9 noble gems, highest royal dwelling and grand palace, divine shelter and living place of the reincarnated spirits. Great City of Angels, Supreme Repository for the Divine Jewels, Mystic East Pinnacle Glitter, fairy tale, fantastical child myths whirled round our heads in profusion like genies whooshed out of bottles. We come and gawp at you. Great land unconquerable, while the world's magic countries, which once sprouted stories for children to plunge their faces in like mouths into peaches, are one by one flattened to the mindless dust of political slogans, tank track crushed by huge grey pamphlets. Here you proclaim yourself, however illogically, however rashly, great land unconquerable, grand prominent realm, royal and delightful capital city, full of the 9 noble gems. Not only that sparkling riverbed litter dropped by the ages, ruby, diamond, emerald, topaz, garnet, sapphire, but the 9 gems of blessing, purity, wisdom, and peace. Highest royal dwelling and grand palace, where one of the last of the world's kings, consecrated, set aside by anointment, set aside to lead a people by serving them, continues to reign. Divine shelter and living place of the reincarnated spirits, where the past is alive in the present is a part of the past, and where both present and past welcome the angels. Will all this soon be smashed to rubble? Will the purity, wisdom, and peace be trampled out of existence by communist slogan shouters who murder not only anyone who does not agree with them, but also anyone who possesses brains or talent to excite their envy? It has happened in Cambodia, where it may be that as much as half of the population has been murdered. It has happened to Laos. And now the Russian-backed Vietnamese army has invaded Cambodia. Is the mindless dust of the political slogans about to sweep Thailand into a rapidly forgotten, legendary past? In Bangkok, the capital city, on a day of celebration, King Bhumibol makes his way to Thailand's central Buddhist shrine, the Temple of the Emerald Buddha. But here in Bangkok itself, unseen and forgotten by these happy people, there are communist cells in full operation. Unnoticed by the West, Thailand has been fighting communist insurgents for 14 years. And almost every day, there's some kind of engagement and some casualties. All this is in great danger. King Bhumibol is surrounded with such love that even the communists do not dare to speak ill of him in their broadcasts. But what can he do? How does he see his function as the last king left in Southeast Asia? The study in his palace looks and sounds like a command post. Here he talks to David Lomax about his job as king.
How do you see your duty as a king? Why do you think that Thailand should continue to have a king?
It's not for me to say. I do things that I think is useful, and that's all.
But are you conscious, as King of Thailand yourself, of being able to do something which you feel wouldn't be possible without a monarchy here?
Well, I don't know what can be defined as king. That is the big trouble. Because in my position is called, I am called a king. But my duties, if you have noticed, is not the duty of a king. It's something that is quite different or difficult to define. I do things I think that will be useful, and that is all. If you ask me what I had in mind, what the plan I had no plan. Just like I'm today, we are going to have something and we are going to do it. We don't know what the something is, but we are going to do something that is good. That is the plan or the spirit.
The king sees his main job as being with the rural poor, 85% of the Thai population. With his family, he works extremely hard on the solving of local living problems, constantly visiting the villages, listening to the villagers, and then, with his own money, starting projects in health, food production, irrigation, or education for villagers to run themselves. The royal family spend roughly 8 months of the year in this way, and there is no doubt that it is their presence in places like this which is Thailand's best defense against communist takeover.
จะได้ลูกเด้จับล่ะจับข้าอีกคนจับนี่ล่ะก็ว่าจะหาการกันในโลกเคนนางเคนแม่เคนบ้านกลางขี้อ้นนะคะว่าเมื่อน้ำจะกุ่นในนกกระนอนน้ำจะกุ่นน้ำจะกุ่นหมอลาดโพลาดโพ
She want to have her photograph taken with the royal family and printed in newspaper. And please send her newspaper because she don't have money to buy it. She's so excited at meeting with the king. 7 children. 7 children and one of them is a soldier guarding the king.
Anywhere we go, we are looked at, and people are interested in us. They look at us, they don't want to bother us. They want to know more how they eat, how they sit, how they walk. They don't look with curiosity or hostility because they are very happy. You must know that they are well-wishing. They are well-wishing and they are on, say, intimate terms with us. It's like a big family. These people are looking at us because they like us and we like them, we love them, they love us. So it doesn't make any, it is no pressure.
Kings and queens of Thailand have always been in close contact with the people, really. And they usually regard the kings as father of nation. That's why usually we don't have much private life because we are considered father and mother of the nation. So naturally we are all the time with the people.
Among the uneducated rural poor, the king is a highly effective agent for change, precisely because of his popularity as king. King Bhumipon's full title is Great Strength of the Land, Incomparable Power, Most Renowned of the Mahidun family of the Rama lineage of the Chakri line, Great Refuge of the People, Great King of Siam, the Chief Protector. To the king, Thailand's danger means that state ceremonial is no empty form. Speeches at the royal audience for his birthday, no mere platitudes, but expression of the struggle for survival.
ข้าพระพุทธเจ้าทั้งหลายทราบแก่ใจอยู่โดยตระหนักชัดว่าการที่ประชาราษฎรไทยตลอด
Having praised the king's compassion and impartiality, the Crown Prince calls upon him blessings from Buddha and from the country's protective gods and spirits.
พรหมวิหารธรรมสำหรับผู้เป็นใหญ่ในแผ่นดินอันแรกแก่ความเมตตารักใคร่ปรารถนาให้ประชาราษฎรเป็นสุขคนไทยรักษาชาติรักษาแผ่นดินเป็นปึกแผ่นมั่นคงมาได้ด้วย
The king's reply praises past generations for their consciousness of Thai nationhood and reminds the present generation that, as well as using their intelligence and practicing the virtues, they must preserve the spirit of being Thai for the generations to come, so that Thailand can remain forever independent. He ends by calling upon his audience of the country's leaders the triple blessing of Buddha and that of all the holy powers. All this time, the war with the communists gets worse. There are communist insurgents on all Thailand's borders, Burma and Malaysia, as well as with communist Laos and Cambodia. The Thai government will not release casualty figures, treating this as secret information. But the most recent figures obtainable date from 1977, when it seems that about 600 government troops were killed, though the insurgents' radio claimed 6 times that number. All we know is that the war has got worse since then. There are probably about 10,000 communist guerrillas in Thailand. Parts of Thai territory are now totally controlled by the insurgents. Now Vietnam has invaded Cambodia and could very easily invade Thailand. They have 10 divisions on the Thai border. Altogether, their army has 600,000 well-trained soldiers, 1,450 tanks, and 1,300 combat aircraft. Against this, Thailand has 141,000 troops, 150 light tanks, and 149 aircraft. The king is acutely aware of Thailand's danger.
The first thing is security. That is the security of the people. The Thai people have to fight for their freedom, for their independence. So the main thing is to be a good general. And then after that, when a country is more settled, it's to have law and order, law and administration. And after that, we must have, or at the same time, we must have enough food to eat, enough facility to have a good home, to have shelter and all that. These are essential things. And then we must have the social order and more things of the heart. That means that we must be good people, so that there would be disorder, because people who are good don't create trouble so much. So we must have religion. So the king is the leader of the religion also.
The king has always looked for ways to adapt state ceremonial to the immediate needs of the country. On the coronation anniversary in May, in front of a display of the regalia, the king presents medals to members of the armed forces for gallantry against the communist insurgents. As the guns fire a salute to their majesties, the king uses the occasion to glorify the role of the soldier as defender of the nation's integrity. The first to receive an award is General Prem, the commander-in-chief of the army, but most other recipients are in the ranks. The Crown Prince is a serving officer. The king personally invests all generals and presents each graduating cadet with his sword. He created this ceremony himself as a way of raising the troops' morale. The white uniforms are the normal requirement for attendance at court, but if you cannot afford a new white uniform, there's no disgrace in attending without one. The king gives medals for gallantry to brave and loyal soldiers, but meanwhile the communists are kidnapping Thai villagers up to 500 a month and forcibly re-educating them. These medals are a reminder that the country is in a state of war. The Thai army is part of the consciousness of the country, rather as the Royal Navy used to be part of the consciousness of Britain. The army was responsible for changing the monarchy from an absolute to a constitutional one in 1932, when a group of army officers, in conjunction with a few intellectuals educated in Paris, led by a certain Pridi, organized a bloodless coup. Since then, for most of the time, Thailand has been under military government. Changes of government have happened with great frequency, usually as a result of bloodless coups, the coups sometimes being led by corporals who are themselves ousted as soon as they become generals. The Parliament building. Thailand has only had parliamentary democracy, as we understand it, for the 3 years from 1973 to 1976. With 55 parties, the system proved impossible to run, and another military coup ended it. General Krian Sak took over in 1977 from a more right-wing military government. In May 1979, the first elections were held since 1976. But Krian Sak did not himself submit to election. The Prime Minister is chosen by the National Policy Council, which is firmly in the control of the military. In effect, the Senate is appointed by him, so in the elected lower house, he only needs a third of the votes in order to have an overall majority in both houses. It is by no means full parliamentary democracy. In a situation like this, the King's opening of Parliament could only be formal. His speech was no more than a brief appeal to the elected and appointed members to work together amicably and to carry out their mission with vigor, fairness and pureness of heart. It may well have been felt that the Buddhist blessing with which his speech concluded was very much needed as the king left and the jockeying for power began. The whole ceremony only lasted 15 minutes. Can Thailand survive? Is its carefree, relaxed independence about to become a thing of the past? The Thais see their survival as intimately connected with the survival of the monarchy. Kukrit Pramo, Prime Minister in 1976 during the brief period of parliamentary democracy, sums up the monarchy's huge significance.
The monarchy, I would say, is the soul of the Thai nation. The king is more than a ceremonial head. Thais are very clannish. First of all, he is the head of the clan. He is the father of a very big family of Thais, consisting of 45 million people. And he is the source of Thai culture. Everything emanates from him. Good manners, way of living, the sort of thoughts and the way of thinking which is regarded as the best of Thai thinking. Even the Buddhist religion, to us, seem to emanate from the king and the monarchy.
It is almost impossible to overestimate the importance of the monarchy in Thai religious thought. The king's throne is a symbolic expression of this. The king is over all. His 9-tiered umbrella signifies universal protection. The throne symbolizes a 3-tiered universe, not all that different from the 3-tiered universe of medieval Christianity, with hell, Middle Earth, and heaven. But while the Christian king holds his power under God, the symbolism here is quite different. Hell, Middle Earth, heaven, and the king sitting on top of everything. However dictatorial Western monarchs were, there was a theology which said that the king must humble himself under God. However humble Thai monarchs may be, there is a theology which says that they are divine. In mythological terms, the king sits on the universe like the supreme creator. And for many Thais, the myths are still real. No wonder Thai peasants worship their king. What is the country over which King Bhumibol reigns? Thailand. Roughly the size of France. Population about 45 million and growing fast. The Thais are a people proud of their traditions. Thais have been in the country for about 4,000 years. Originally, the Thais were a Mongol people living in China between the Yellow River and the Yangtze. Then the Chinese started encroaching on their territory, and the Thais moved south to the land shaped like an elephant's head. The word Thai means free people. Thailand has four main regions. The north, with its mountains and forests of teak and elephants, mainly very fertile, but inhabited by primitive tribes speaking languages other than Thai, who are destroying the ecology through ignorance and whose preferred crop is opium. The barren northeast, where the farmers risk serious loss during droughts, where they are liable to become trapped by moneylenders, and where the communists are at their strongest. The southern peninsula, shared with Malaysia, where there is rubber and tin, but where there are vast unproductive swamps which create a need for drainage and irrigation canals if the land is to yield its full capacity. The fertile paddy fields of the Central Plain. Thailand has 3 seasons: the hot, the wet and the cool, though even the cool seems hot to someone brought up in the temperate zone. Most towns in Thailand are built on water, and nearly all have floating markets where every kind of produce can be bought. An ancient Thai inscription reads, "This land is good, in the water there is fish, in the fields there is rice. Whoever wants to trade, trades. The faces of the people shine bright with happiness." Thailand refers to itself as the land of smiles. 85% of Thais live on the land, most of them still in primitive third world conditions. But by comparison with the really poor countries of the third world, no Thais are that poor. There is malnutrition, but no one starves. The trouble with Thailand is the enormous gap between the very wealthy few and the peasant majority. Thailand is potentially a rich country. Its problem is how to develop its resources and how to distribute without corruption the wealth that could be created. Much of the land is potentially very fertile. The main crop is rice. This year, Thailand expects to become the world's leading rice exporter. Yet, ironically, the farmers remain poor. For years, successive governments have kept the price paid to farmers for rice artificially low to cut the cost of living in Bangkok. But such exploitation has proved a serious threat to internal security. Another security problem is created by the presence of the refugees. They come by the thousands, lame and sick, edging their way to freedom. They are Thailand's most desperate problem. We in the West have only recently become aware of the pitiful plight of these survivors from Cambodia, a nation in its death throes. But for Thailand, the problem is not new. Refugees fleeing from disease, famine and unimaginable horrors have been coming across her borders since the end of the Vietnam War in 1975. Now there are refugees of several different races and countries: Laotians, Cambodians, Vietnamese, Chinese. At any given moment, there are between 200,000 and 300,000 refugees in Thailand. Some are resettled in other countries and move on. Some come for food or medical attention and slip back across the border again. Some are communist infiltrators. So far, Thai peasants do not need to leave their homes, except to crowd into already overcrowded Bangkok, adding to its congestion, noise and traffic pollution. Krung Thep, the Thais call the city, shortening its full name to the first word. Krung Thep, City of Angels. But the angels have given way to gasoline fumes and neon signs. A vivid example of what the French call coco-colonization. The smiles in the capital of the land of smiles are so often for sale. And this, of course, is part of Thailand's problem. So much of the country's wealth is concentrated in Bangkok, an international playboy city where Japanese businessmen come on sex package tours to the massage parlors that were built for the American troops in the Vietnam War. The other side to Bangkok, its 184 temples. 95% of Thais are practicing Buddhists. Thailand's devout Buddhism is both a strength and a weakness. The weakness is that Buddhism encourages an acceptance of the status quo, for each person has many lives and the next one may be pleasanter. The strength is that there is a moral and philosophical unity here that very few countries in the world now possess. Thailand has not yet lost its soul. Actually, there are many strands in Thai religion. In addition to the Buddhist temples, there are the spirit houses, one outside nearly every home, dwelling places for the local guardian spirits. Animism, a belief in spirits abiding in creatures, trees, water, was the original religion of the Thais. The spirits of animism mingled with the gods of Hinduism to form a culture which gives Thailand its stories, its drama, and its dance. It is by an extraordinary combination of chances that King Bhumibol came to be king of Thailand. His father, Prince Mahidol, was a younger son of King Chulalongkorn, went to school at Harrow, served for a while in the German Navy, and then trained as a doctor at Harvard. In America, he met his wife, King Bhumibol's mother, now known as Her Royal Highness the Princess Mother. She was a commoner who was studying to be a nurse there. They were married in 1920. Galyani, their eldest daughter, was born in 1923. Anand, their eldest son, was born in 1925. Bhumibol in 1927. In 1928, Prince Mahidol finally qualified as a doctor and returned to Thailand. His brother, the reigning king, Prachatipok, was childless. The more senior princes had died, and Mahidol was now heir to the throne. The taboos surrounding royalty were very strong, and it was unthinkable for him to practice as a doctor in Bangkok. So he went north, but there he soon contracted an illness and died when Bhumibol was less than 2. Anand was now heir. In 1933, a year after the coup, and fearful of its consequences, the princess mother went to Switzerland to ensure the safety of her children, Anand now being heir to the throne. The 3 children were brought up and educated in Lausanne. But in 1935, King Prachatipok abdicated and retired to his beloved England, taking a house in Virginia Water. So at the age of 10, Anand, who was in bed that day with a heavy cold, was asked if he would accept the crown, and said yes. They remained in Switzerland, however, till after the Second World War. A close family, the 2 brothers always together. They were brought up to be good at sports and to speak many languages. King Anand studied law, Bhumibol science. In 1945, after the war had ended, King Anand returned to Thailand with the entire family, summoned to return by Pridi, who was now Prime Minister. The princess mother agreed to the family's return for 1 month only because of King Anand's studies, but against her better judgment, the stay was extended for reasons of state. They lived in the Borompimon Hall in the Grand Palace, which had been built in imitation of buildings seen in Europe. On the 9th of June 1946, in the bedroom in this wing of the palace, King Anand was found shot through the head by a Colt 45 which he kept at his bedside. Royal protocol stopped an immediate investigation. There was no sign of an assassin's entry. Was it accident, suicide, or murder? It was in these circumstances that Bhumibol was chosen as king later that day. His first duty was to attend for an hour every day for 100 days in front of the golden urn in which his brother's body lay in state. The body remained in the urn for 4 years. King Bhumibol went to Switzerland to complete his studies and returned in March 1950 to cremate his brother's body. Meanwhile, a long trial was in process. Preeti had organized a commission of inquiry, but found himself rumored as guilty of planning the king's murder. He resigned and fled the country. Finally, on the 17th of February 1955, 3 men were executed for the king's murder. But an atmosphere of doubt remains. Whatever the truth of Anand's death, the event has affected King Bhumibol's whole life. When David Lomax asked him about his brother's death, he found the question most distressing.
After so many years now, how do you believe that your brother died?
The investigation provided the fact that he died with a bullet wound in his forehead. And this thing is, it was proved that it was not an accident or not a suicide. One doesn't know. But what happened is very mysterious, because immediately many of the evidence was just shifted, and then because it was political, so everyone was political, even the police were political. So it is a fact of that is not very clear. I only know what happened.
When you yourself were there and you ran along when everyone called?
When I arrived, he was dead. Many people wanted to advance not theories but facts to clear up the affair. They were suppressed, and they were suppressed by influential people in this country or in the international politics.
Mourning for the past king must always precede the accession of the new king. But the sight of Anand's funeral chariot must have been a particularly painful memory for Bhumibol to associate with his own coronation, which took place in May 1950. Even his marriage to Queen Sirikit at the end of April 1950, surely one of the most beautiful and romantic of all royal marriages, started unhappily. The king was recovering from a serious motor accident in which he'd lost his right eye at the time they became engaged. They had met when her father was ambassador in Paris, and their courtship had continued in London during his transfer to the embassy there. In her favorite palace in the north, with its gardens created on English models, Queen Sirikit tells of her first meeting with the king.
It was hate at first sight on my side.
Hate at first sight?
Hate at first sight, because he said he would arrive at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He arrived at 7 o'clock, kept me standing there and practicing courtesy and curtsy. So it was hate at first sight.
Well, if it was hate at first sight, what was it at second sight?
Then it was love. Just the ordinary thing you have heard, love at first sight. I didn't know that he loved me, because at that time I was only 15 years old and planned to be a pianist, concert pianist.
And then he had a car accident, didn't he? What happened there?
He was gravely ill in the hospital. The police rang his mother, and the princess mother came immediately. Instead of greeting her, he produced my picture out of his pocket without my knowing that he had one. And then he said, "Send for her. I love her, send for her." I thought of being with the man I love only, not of the duty and burdens of Queen.
The Queen has spoken in public about the need for mothers to send their sons to fight for Thailand. Given the importance of the army, it is right and proper that the Crown Prince should be a serving officer. But it is also his own personal choice. He enjoys army life and enjoyed his training in Australia after a not very happy time at school in England. He has been on active service in the war against the insurgents, been ambushed and had his helicopter shot down.
What are the personal pressures on you in your role as Crown Prince?
I don't know what it's like because I have been born the first second of my life. I'm a prince. It's difficult to say what is it like to be a fish when you are a fish, or what is it like to be a bird when you're a bird. If you go and ask them, you know, it's difficult because they don't know what it's like not to be a fish or a bird. In every life, I believe that there are pressures and there are stress and there are problems. And this is one kind of problem you have. It is the same as everybody. There are pros and cons, and there are advantage, disadvantage, and all sort of things. I'm not special.
The Sai Jai Thai Fair is sponsored by Princess Sirindhorn, who has interrupted her university career, a very distinguished one, since she won the highest finals grades of her year and holds 2 MAs, to work on her father's projects. Sai Jai means heart thread, the bond that unites the Thai people. They give aid to soldiers and police wounded while on duty in the border areas and to the families of those killed.
And at the same time, we have everybody from all parts of the country who sell their product, and the people of Bangkok will be able to know and to sell and to buy things from all the country in one day.
At the fair, a star attraction, Princess Chulabhorn, who is a successful figure in Thai pop music. But she also plays solo classical piano in public concerts.
A shiny star lights up way up high.
She has also been accepted to do a chemistry PhD at a Bangkok university.
This comes to pass when a child is born. A silent wish sails the 7 seas. Winds of change whisper in the trees, and the walls of doubt crumble toss and toss. This comes to pass when a child is born.
Her father, the king, is also a musician, among many other talents. He is a composer, plays jazz saxophone, clarinet, and several other instruments. He has played with Duke Ellington. When in Bangkok, he broadcasts a weekly program of jazz with his band from the radio station in the palace. His musical ear is put to other uses also, since he is said to speak 7 European languages. He took up painting as an adult, though no longer finds time for it now. This painting, Gossip, is a favorite of his. He's been a keen photographer since his school days. His photographs tend to have single objects as their point of reference. He takes a great many portraits of the Queen and admits to being a little jealous when other people photograph her. He is still a keen sportsman and is particularly fond of sailing. He has built sailboats himself and designed a special rudderless engine for boats to use in the shallow waterways frequently found in Thailand, where normal rudders get caught in vegetation. The King's most notable achievement as yachtsman was in 1967 at the Southeast Asian Games, when he won a gold medal in the OK class with his oldest daughter, Princess U Bonra. The princess is now married to an American. She works in Los Angeles as a nuclear physicist and has never returned to Thailand. An original and talented monarch, a worthy successor to his ancestors, the Chakri dynasty, to whom the royal family pay their respects in an annual ceremony on the coronation anniversary. Each king bears the titular name of Rama. Before the Chakri dynasty, the Thai capital was known as Ayutthaya. In a savage war, the Burmese sacked the city and burnt it to ruins. A Thai general called Thaksin started the resistance, reformed the Thais and became king. But he seems to have gone a little mad. He believed that he could levitate. He was ousted and replaced by another general, known by his title of Chakri, which means commander-in-chief. He became king, taking the title of Rama I in 1782, and founded his capital at Bangkok. The present king is Rama IX.
Kingship, if we have to use this word, has changed all the time. Since the old times and then since the advent of founding of Bangkok capital, it has always changed. My great-grandfather was the philosopher king. He was the king that you will know under the name of King Mongkut.
The famous king, model for the King and I, who came to the throne in 1851, aged 47, after having been a monk for 27 years. King Mongkut was full of ingenuity. He had a scheme for widening canals by driving buffaloes down them as a kind of living bulldozer. In other, more fundamental ways, he started to introduce Thailand to Western civilization. As a distinguished abbot and scholar, Mongkut knew Sanskrit, Pali, and several other Asian languages. He also taught himself English, and then read everything he could find about science, becoming especially good at astronomy. But this was finally to cause his death, for he had correctly predicted an eclipse of the sun, and insisted on taking his court to the place where it would be most visible. This was a fever spot. King Mongkut caught the fever and died. Mongkut's son, Chulalongkorn, succeeded in 1868. His reign lasted 42 years, and he brilliantly managed both to avoid conquest by Britain or France, and also to modernize Thailand along Western lines.
He did not have an easy life. He began at the age of 15, and he had to create a place for himself. That means he had to define his own duties by taking up the basis that my great-grandfather had laid. And he had to fight also for keeping the country free from encroachment from other countries.
He sent his sons to school in England, traveled widely in Europe, reformed the Thai system of justice, health and education, abolished slavery, and created the first Thai bank. King Chulalongkorn started this royal collection of vintage cars. He taught himself to drive, and having created wide, tree-lined avenues in Bangkok, used to motor around them in his electric car. His motoring enthusiasm was shared by his senior wife, Queen Sawapa, who was given to buying up cars by the dozen as gifts for those who had served the country well. All the dynasty had been colourful personalities, creative, original, and given to flamboyance. It was Rama I who built these magnificent golden barges, which are taking the king to the Temple of the Dawn to offer robes to the monks for the Katin festival. King Mongkut also loved spectacle, in spite of his 27 years as a monk. And immediately after his coronation, he led a huge procession of brightly coloured longboats around Bangkok. His own boat had gold-painted paddles, and the 100 oarsmen were dressed in scarlet. Elephants now are only occasionally used for ceremonial events, but the possession of white elephants remains an important symbol of royal power in Thailand even today. These are King Bhumipon's white elephants. His brother, King Anan, possessed none, and that ill omen is held to have brought about his death. King Mongkut wrote a book about white elephants, which incidentally, though albino, are not white. They should have pink and yellow eyes, a light reddish-brown skin and red hair, and white toenails, white at the edge of their ears and the top of their trunk. Having enumerated the various points whereby to judge their excellence, one of which was a beautiful snore, Mongkut concluded by saying that ultimately the judgment was a matter of personal choice, as with women. King Mongkut, we may presume, had a way with women. From the age of 47 to 64, after 27 years of celibacy as a monk, he fathered 82 children by 35 wives. His vigorous polygamy is about the only true thing about his portrait in The King and I, the musical based on the inaccurate diary of Anna Leon Owens, an English schoolteacher who spent some time at his court, but did not teach him English, sit by his deathbed, and most certainly did not dance with him.
Come, we'll do it again.
Your Majesty.
Why do you burst in here without waiting?
We have found Taptim.
Where is she?
Secret police are questioning her. Her lover has not been caught. Not yet.
Why was it that the film, the Hollywood musical, The King and I, was considered so offensive here? Do you find it offensive?
People in this country feel that to take somebody in history, in fact it is near history, and to transform, they don't like it so much. They have the respect for especially King Mongkut. They have the respect, and they don't like the King Mongkut to go up and down the stage and saying that King Mongkut is like that and like this. They don't like that.
Have you seen the film yourself?
I have seen.
But when you yourself saw the film?
And then, if you look at the criteria of as a musical comedy or musical film, on that criteria it is very entertaining, very well done, and very lavish, good musical comedy, deserve the success. But on another criteria, that if we look at it as a character, the character of King Mongkut in that movie, he is a sympathetic character. He's a wonderful fellow, intelligent, strong, and perhaps nearer the truth than in the book, the original book even. Because that character in the film has a very strong character, which my great-grandfather had a very strong character. He did not dance up and down the scene, but he did have a very strong, he did have a very strong sense of duty to the country.
A few of my wives, they have beauty but not gift for knowledge. I have no time for teaching, being busy with foreign affairs and other situations. I may present Lady Chang, head wife.
There is a happy land far, far away, where saints in glory stand bright, bright as day.
Now the buildings of the harem are deserted. In Mongkut's time, this was a thriving city within a city where only women were allowed. Princes and nobles vied to send their daughters here. The king could make those of the harem he favored royal, so there was a seniority of wives, with the chief one, queen. Queen or concubine, none were allowed outside, and for a man who looked at one of them in the face, it was death. Although officially illegal, polygamy is still widely practiced in Thailand, but it has not been practiced by a king for 52 years. Today, however, there are still places in this inner courtyard for single women kept by and working for the royal household. The royal children used to live in the harem, the boys leaving it when they were 12.
The royal princes and princesses.
Now, there are still royal children, but they are adopted. Children from all over the country whom their parents cannot keep.
How about the twins? How did they come to be adopted? Your mother just happened to see them in the crowd?
Sitting in the crowd when we go to visit Nong Khai. And then she found that the mother has got 9 children and very, very poor. The mother and the children are all pale and thin. So she asked if she can have this twin.
Well, she must see hundreds of thousands of children over a year, and many other children who are equally in difficult circumstances. What was it about these two particular children that attracted you?
Perhaps this is the love at first sight.
Are these the only children that the royal household have adopted, or are there others? I noticed there's some other children just behind you.
Chechan. This one.
He's also been adopted.
Yes. This comes from Hukapong. This at the cooperative near Bangkok. We always visit the cooperative, and his mother and father are the member of this cooperative. And then one day, the father came and gave the sister of this one, who is deaf, and now we have her at school for the deaf.
And how did she come to be here? Did your mother just happen to see her? And was it also love at first sight?
And this one, the father gave us. because the mother died of cancer, so he cannot keep so much children. So he's ill also.
How common is it these days for parents to offer children to the royal household? Is it fairly common?
It is not a tradition, but sometimes.
And you were telling me that some of these children could speak a bit of English.
Yes, about nose, ear, eyes.
And counting?
Counting. He taught them just for fun.
Can they count for us?
นับสิ 1 2
ตื่นเช้าก็ถึงจะนับ
He said it early in the morning. She won't count now.
There is still an abundance of formal court procedure and complicated etiquette, which must be known by everyone who works at court, such as these ladies in waiting.
Can you explain what the principal rules of court etiquette here are?
Well, the head is supposed to be the most sacred part of your body, because in the old days, traditionally, they believed that your soul resided at the top of your head. That's why they had the top knot. And it was considered something that more sacred than any other part of your body, and you don't use the lowest part of your body to point at things or sit with your feet in front of you. And if we're sitting with the royal family or somebody older in a Western situation, we never cross our legs either, because it's disrespectful. You keep your feet tucked behind you as much, as I said, as much as possible, like the ladies are doing now.
What about the height, when you are in the presence of their majesties, what about the height of your head?
We try to be lower than their majesties. You will see us sometimes, if we're on the floor, if we want to go somewhere, we don't just stand up and move. We crawl and keep our bodies lower than their majesties. So if they're standing, if we walk past them, we lower ourselves, or to any other older person.
The most sacred image of Thailand, the center of the Grand Palace, the Emerald Buddha. The image is actually made of jade and is about 2,000 years old. It was installed here by Rama I, founder of the Chakri dynasty. This ceremony on the coronation anniversary shows more than any other how the king has made ancient court procedure relate to the pressing current needs of the country. The oath of allegiance to the land, taken in the presence of the Buddha. The men gathered here to take the oath are soldiers. Earlier in the day, they were decorated for bravery against the communist insurgents. Ancient rite is practiced by those at risk from modern danger. This ceremony shows more clearly how the king is indeed the soul of his nation, the center round which army, government, and religion cohere. The participants in the ceremony remind us of the danger that threatens this nation and its soul. Buddhist rite though it is, there is also the typical Thai admixture of Hinduism. Here the officials are Brahmins, descendants of Hindu immigrants whose function in the state is to keep alive the Hindu rituals which originally came from India many centuries ago. Brahmin priests, incidentally, do have to pass a novitiate as Buddhist monks. The state sword is dipped in lustral water. It has now been purified.
สมาชิกรามาธิบดีว่าตามข้าพเจ้าข้าพเจ้าขอกระทำสัตย์ปฏิญาณสาบานตัวต่อประเทศชาติและประชาชนชาวไทย
The oath of allegiance is taken to the land. If at any time I dishonor my pledge, may misfortune fall upon me and plague me forever. An older version of the oath, no longer used, contains a powerful set of possible deaths for those who flout its precepts: lightning and thunderbolts, royal weapons, poison, and the animals of land or water. In the past, incidentally, the king did not take the oath himself. His power was godlike. That he now takes the oath is a bowing to modern notions of kingship. The holy water, which everyone drinks from the king downwards, is collected from the 5 rivers of the kingdom. It is said that in the past, men frequently caught cholera, collapsed, and died from drinking these waters, which made those who took the oath most fearful of its solemnity. Today, it is unlikely that any of these soldiers, back from their war on the borders, will need any supernatural sanctions. Failure of their loyalty or their nerve would have swift repercussions. Their country would be as devastated as Cambodia has been devastated. Thailand, land of the free. Can His Majesty King Bhumibol ensure that this title continues to be true? Thailand, one of the last countries in the world still in touch with its past, where ancient traditions can be fruitfully adapted to the pressing needs of today. A well-loved king, worthy successor to distinguished ancestors, who uses his ritual sanctity and his personal popularity to get things done that will improve his people's welfare. All this, the king, the country's traditions, the people's welfare, are threatened with communist invasion. But with or without communism, the king sees his role as getting on with a job that needs doing. The king's convoy in action. It leaves more or less every day when he's in the regions and covers about 30,000 miles a year. In spite of losing one eye after his motor accident as a young man, the king likes to drive himself, very fast. He says that it helps him to feel the land, to sense intuitively what it needs. He plans the trips himself and decides when to stop. Once people know that the king is going to pass their way, they lay out carpets in case he might stop. For the feet of a king are not supposed to touch the ground. This taboo, though no longer strictly held, is still exercised, particularly by the country people. The purpose of these tours is always twofold. On the one hand is the improvement in the people's welfare and the development which the king achieves, and this is certainly significant. On the other hand, there is his presence as king among the villagers. Before his visit, they may feel themselves neglected. In his presence, and after he has gone, they know that they are not. In 1 year, the king's convoy gave away to the rural poor 39,038 blankets, 30,778 towels, 31,010 monks' robes, 29,180 sweaters, 29,140 farmers' outfits, 20,340 children's outfits, 34,358 pupils' uniforms. One statistic the palace would not release was the number of lollipops given out, but it must be hundreds of thousands per year. The ladies-in-waiting act as social workers, taking extensive notes on every case so that each one can be followed up afterwards. This means typing up every night, and a lot of work when the court is returned to Bangkok. The King's Chief Information Officer coordinates them. There are a great number of administrative points to consider. For instance, if they take a child from a place like this to hospital in Bangkok, they have to take its family as well and feed and house them. No previous king had ever even visited the northeast. King Bhumibol spent the first 10 years of his reign traveling very thoroughly through every district of the country so that he could see the problems in detail at first hand. This detailed knowledge now forms a base for rapidly expanding work in all kinds of development. Always the encouragement, listening to their problems, helping them to help themselves.
Did they have any particular problem they wanted you to?
No problem. They were very happy. And I asked in what temple they were going, and they said the name, and I looked in the map. And there is a old temple here, and they did not remember the name.
They seem to be very impressed with your geographical knowledge.
Oh, because they are very happy when somebody comes and knows about their village.
But you go everywhere with this map, I notice. It never, not this particular one, but there is never a map from your hand.
I try to have a map so that I know where I'm going. And they are happy when they know that the official map is, the village is on their map.
Are there some occasions when people live in villages that aren't marked on your map or that have the wrong name?
Well, that is what happened now.
What is what happened?
There's a village that has no name, and I put a name on it.
What's the royal household able to do for the people on visits like this?
If they are seriously ill, we take them to Bangkok and we give them the operation or the medicine they need, and they don't have to pay anything. We pay for all the operation and the medicine, and they follow them up until they are well, and we send them home. We give them the money to go home and look after their family also. When their mother or father is in hospital, we look after the children also.
Who actually pays for all this help? Is every single bit of help paid for by the royal family?
Yes. Yes.
What about the medical teams who come? Surely they're paid by the government? Some of the doctors who are coming around with you?
They are volunteer doctors, but the medicine, the royal family pays for the medicine.
Why haven't these people, if they've got something the matter with them, why haven't they gone to the ordinary government medical health service or to the local government hospitals and tried to get help from them?
There are very few government hospitals around here, and sometimes it's a sensitive area. The government officers couldn't get in.
The King's mother, Her Royal Highness the Princess Mother, founded her Flying Doctor Service precisely to cover these gaps in government health care. Her eldest daughter, Princess Galyani, who works as a university lecturer, helps her mother at weekends. As a trained nurse, the Princess Mother is well qualified for this work. Now nearly 80, she remains remarkably fit and continues to work with great energy at a number of projects. But her influence in matters of health has been considerable. Neither she nor her son, King Bhumibol, ever forgets that public health was the life work of his father, Prince Mahidol, who died whilst working as a doctor in the north of Thailand. The Flying Doctor Service was founded in 1969. Border Patrol police helicopters take the doctors into remote rural areas they would not otherwise be able to reach. Radio communication has helped to make the service available throughout the country. There are now more than 20,000 in the service: doctors, dentists, nurses, pharmacists, and health officers. All are volunteers who work for nothing in their holidays or spare time, and they are desperately needed, for there is a great lack of trained doctors in the rural areas. The opening of a new hospital is a more conventional act of royalty. Every state ceremony is prefaced by a religious one. Even in such conventional engagements as these, the King's workload is enormous. 826 official engagements last year. In other words, an average of between 2 and 3 engagements a day, 7 days a week throughout the year. Both King and Queen admit that they have very little time in which to talk to each other in private. Outside the hospital, the crowds wait as usual for a chance to see the royal family. The King will never allow a precise time schedule to be imposed on his day, because he needs to be free to stop and talk with people as they present themselves.
She has 8 children, and 5 of them are still alive. And she can walk, and she can see very well. She can do her homework, but she's a little bit deaf. This is her grandchild, grandniece, and her youngest daughter is more than 40. 8 children. she's a little bit shy of the camera, so I tell her to smile. These people, the young girls behind them said they are really over 100 years old. They said that they eat ordinarily, but they complained about being so poor and nobody looked after them. So I think we'll just help the neighbors to give some money to the neighbors to look after them. This one is totally alone. That's what she told me. But these two have distant relatives looking after them.
So far this year, volunteer doctors on the royal team have performed about 250 operations in this area, mostly for eye complaints. Many doctors in the northeast have been killed by communists ransacking hospitals for medical supplies.
Your Majesty, could you tell us about the lady you looked at who had the growth?
She's 21 years old and just married 2 years ago. And she said this growth grows very quickly. In 2 years' time, it's big like you saw it. And the doctor said it's cancer. I don't know, what do you call in English here, sinus, where the sinus is?
The sinus? The sinus.
Yes. She has cancer and it is perhaps the last stage. And we feel very sorry, but we are going to send her to Bangkok with the, what do you call, radio?
For radiation treatment.
Radiation treatment.
How about the small child you looked at? I think this child who had a hair lip.
I think it can be operated here at Sakulnakhon because we have so many good doctors at Sakulnakhon Hospital, so it's all right.
An official reception in the grounds of Phupan Palace. At these functions, everyone must take part. Guests are frequently asked to do some kind of turn. Now it is the ladies-in-waiting. They worked all day as social workers. Now at night, they must change and perform traditional Thai dance. Romeo and Juliet, translated to Thai opera, with Romeo played by one of the volunteer doctors. With the king's many languages, there is rarely any need for an interpreter. There is a great tradition of hospitality among the Thais. The showing of hospitality to foreigners, like Giscard d'Estaing's brother, is considered important for its own sake. The King and Queen receive representatives of friendly countries, both formally and informally, turning state functions into personal affairs whenever possible.
I saw that blue, lovely blue.
A natural part of the royal family's job is to promote the country's crafts, culture, and special products, even at parties. Queen is very much concerned to increase silk production throughout the country. And she makes a point of wearing Thai fabrics herself.
These dresses are made of matni silk, which is the material woven in the northeastern part of Thailand. Before it was dyeing art, because it is so difficult to make it. It would take many weeks to make it. Have you noticed that a single piece of mud meat can have different color? Once you look at it, it seems the color of gold, and if you turn it around, it has the reflect of mauve color. So that's the quality of Thai silk. The people in the northeastern part of Thailand is the big majority of Thai population, and that part is quite dry. There are often droughts. When I visited, I noticed that the people are wearing this, but only a sarong. It is so beautiful and so different from other material. So I asked them to weave it for me. And now I've got the market in Japan, and soon I hope to get the market in Hong Kong.
In a sense, all official functions are, as it were, extras to the king's main job, his travelling development column. The convoy contains doctors, social workers, agricultural advisors, irrigation engineers, and other specialists as required. Which is more fundamental to the relief of the rural poor? Improved medical care for the sick, or better food for everyone? The two must go together. Better nutrition means better health. The king is well aware that Thailand could have enormously productive agriculture. The problem often comes down to making the best use of available water. There's either too little or too much. Wherever he goes, you will see soldiers. Especially near the border, there is always danger. A spotter plane flies overhead. This is one of the king's new dams. Irrigation is probably the aspect of development to which he contributes most. Apart from his boat with the rudderless engine, the king has designed dams and irrigation channels himself. He has initiated over 400 irrigation projects throughout Thailand, often combining them with the introduction of fisheries. The king instigates these projects, draws up detailed plans, persuades the government to finance them, but continues to take a personal interest in their construction and development. With his quick grasp of the subject, he always makes his experts work hard. And though he seems able to master almost anything he puts his hand to, it is probably the many facets of engineering for which he has the most talent. The king carries a two-way radio with him at all times. He is said even to sleep with it. This means that he's the first to hear of any crisis. But he seems oblivious to everything as he concentrates on the job in hand.
And helped by this water here. So this water we take here, and we must put a small dam here so that they'll have water here. The most important thing is that they should have rice in this area, which doesn't have to be marketed. They eat it. It is their subsistence. They will be able to have self-sufficiency in rice here, which they don't have now because last year, 2 years before, it's dry, no water.
What do you think the communist insurgents are telling people about schemes like this that you're involved in?
Depends on the one. Sometimes they will say that they are the initiators of this scheme. Sometimes they will say that this scheme is the devil's scheme. Depends on the man.
But in a sense, there's a bit of truth in that, because they might be claiming that were it not for all their action, you and the government wouldn't be doing these things here.
You like to pose this question. This is a half-truth. If they were not there, we would not have the trouble. And we would have built this dam a long time ago. But if, because they are there, we must take the trouble to come here, because the people who built this, they want to have some encouragement.
You're saying that this is evidence that you're winning?
Winning against what?
Communist insurgency.
Oh, I don't know. But we are winning against hunger. This is what we are doing. We are not fighting against people. We are fighting against hunger. We want to have them have a better life. If we make this and they have a better life, the people you call the communist insurgent will have a better life also. So everybody is happy.
And so on into the night. Impossible not to be overwhelmed by the energy of this man who works round the clock for his people. What must he think of us, technology-cosseted Westerners? The Queen told us that we could never capture his life on film because we, with our union rules, would never work the hours that he does. Such powers of concentration, such radiant energy. An army camp. These soldiers have been waiting all day for the King's arrival. That is often the case, but the Thais do not mind waiting. It is still such an honor to see the King. Presents to the soldiers. The hand flick which the soldier gives before he receives the parcel is a gesture of politeness made only to the King, Queen, and royal princes or princesses of the highest rank. It is, as it were, a gesture of asking permission to receive direct from the royal hand. The King enters the command headquarters for secret discussions on the military situation, a room which our film crew was not allowed to enter. We are reminded once again that Thailand is at war.
Could you tell us why you think it's so important to come and inspect a military position like this, please?
They have an important task to do, is to keep the area safe, their territory safe, and in fact to help the people, because the people in this area is very, very poor, so poor. This is the place where it is called so-called liberated area, one of the liberated area. It isn't red anymore, but still the fact is the people are very poor still. So the soldier here helps to give them advice on how to grow their crops and how to look after their children. They are loved everywhere, the soldiers, I mean, because they don't fight with arms only, because they have been looking after the welfare of the people most. In fact, they have won the heart of the people. I think that is the right way to fight the insurgents.
What do you think the communist insurgents think of the royal family of Thailand?
I don't know, but I think you can search some of them. I think many of them have come, and many of, not this time. I met once a man just came down from the mountain. He declared himself a communist, but he said he loves the king too. So how can one explain that? How can one call him a communist or what? I don't know.
We met a communist defector this morning who said, we asked him what were the communists telling villagers about the royal family, and he said that the communists tell the villagers that the royal family are the biggest capitalists of all in Thailand. What do you think of that?
I think the people will decide what to call us. by themselves. They will decide. So we'll let the people decide. These young men, they have chosen to serve their country in the rural area. I'm very proud of them, indeed. เป็นเพื่อนกับร้อยเอกนรงค์เดชหรือเปล่าเป็นรุ่นน้องรุ่นเดียวกัน And he can sing beautifully. He can sing beautifully, and he play guitar also. He loves the people as well. He loves flower. He's an artist as well as soldier.
I hear that this evening you're going to see an exhibition of dancing.
Yes, it will take about only 10 minutes, but we are late, much too late.
After the day's visible work and activities are over, the king can spend 4, 5 or even 6 hours alone in his study at night, surrounded by teleprinters, radio sets tuned into police or army frequencies and other communication devices. He debriefs himself on the day and plans tomorrow's trip.
Could you explain what you're doing with these maps, please?
If I see something, you see circles there, places that can be developed, and you can see a place there with a red thing there. It's a kind of for damming and for making a small reservoir. And then when there are the engineers, the irrigation engineer, I can ask them if it is practical to do that. And sometimes they go and inspect the place and can have a survey on the spot.
Why do you have all these radio sets everywhere, all these receivers, transmitters, telexes? What are they all for?
Well, communication. I think that you should know that radio is for communication. I don't have television here.
Now, I've heard people say that this is your personal intelligence network.
I wouldn't say intelligence, but sometimes it is very, very useful. Sometimes when you know about the news of some disaster hitting somewhere, you can help them very, very quickly, and that speed is the most important factor. So that I get the news by the telex or by the radio. Most of the what you hear here doesn't concern me. It's sometimes there is a murder somewhere. Sometimes I can have some news of they have caught a caravan of heroin or something like that. It is better than to listen to the broadcast or other things.
When you sit here by yourself for several hours every evening, looking at your maps and listening to the radios, is that because you are a lonely man or because you need to have some time by yourself after all the public side of your life outside?
That is a question that can be answered in many ways. I'm not lonely, and I have work to do, so I have to do the work. The way of doing work is to have some concentration, that is some peace, and then one can think more clearly. It is a way of preparing myself to be able to do whatever circumstances will have me to do. I gather information by listening. I gather information by looking at the maps or at reading or thinking. And then when time comes, I have the the material in my head.
From this radio station in his Bangkok palace, Kitlada Villa, the king gives special broadcasts during any natural disaster such as floods or epidemics to launch appeals for the victims, as well as the more usual messages to the nation. In the grounds of the palace there is a school. It was started for the royal children. It is open to anyone intelligent enough to be accepted. There are over 350 children and every facility. The king is a firm believer in the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, which he links to his Buddhist principles. An important part of rural development is the building of rural schools. It has been very difficult for the government to do anything about this. Lack of roads makes it hard to reach the remote villages. The building of roads is often sabotaged, and hundreds of teachers have already been murdered by the insurgents. The king decided to set up schools run by soldiers or border patrol police, with the soldiers or police doing the teaching. At first this was just primary education, but now it has expanded to secondary as well. This school is in the process of being built by the local people themselves. Youth and education occupy a great deal of the king's attention. He makes a point of giving every student his degree in person, and on an average he awards 23,900 degrees a year.
How important is it for you that on this graduation day it will be the king who will be giving you your certificate?
It means so much to me because my family teach me and teach my brothers, my sister that we must pay respect to him. We are very proud to be near him or to get something from him, like the degree.
It's very important to me because we all respect the king because he is the best king. My family and I and all the Thai citizens respect to him because he has done great beauty to this country. He means very much to us.
The students have given the king some of his most difficult times in his attempt to stay out of politics. Naturally, they have been the most vocal section of the country, the quickest to clamour for change. Over the years, the king's speeches on graduation days sound cautious notes. For instance, not every established thing is rightly destroyed by violence, for what is put in its place may be worse. Real creativity can only be expressed by peaceful means. Expand your awareness, but use your knowledge for the development of the country as a whole. Not all students are happy with this. The students have been associated with the two occasions of greatest violence in Thailand during the 70s. In 1973, there was a student uprising in which 73 were killed. The demonstrations were against the corrupt military dictatorship of Field Marshal Thanom. On this occasion, the king had intervened on the students' side, and Thanom was exiled. A constitution was drafted, and there were 3 brief civilian governments. But with 55 different parties, parliamentary democracy proved extremely complicated. Then, in October 1976, at Thammasat University, students gathered again to stage a mass protest against the return to Thailand of the ousted dictator Thanom. The student protest was brutally suppressed. 30 were killed. The riots at Thammasat served as a pretext for a military coup.
It has been suggested abroad that after the riots in October 76 at Thammasat, the royal family were themselves involved in some way
in trying to help different factions come together, and that the royal family was instrumental in the changes that happened after those riots.
The royal family is in the limelight, so that if we think something, we do something, they will look at it. If they look at it, it doesn't mean that we are playing politics. And now, if after it is not the October 6th only, any action, even when I'm going out to look on the site of a small dam, or asking the people if they have had enough to eat this morning, I'm beginning to play politics. I'm accused of playing politics.
But at that time, your son was hanged in effigy.